Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As the moderator told us, I'm Jorge Rodriguez. I'm Director of Revenue in Europe for Riskmethods, and I have today on stage with me Maria Albertsson, Supply Risk Manager at Tetra Pak. So in today's session, we will learn, especially from Maria, how she has developed, or how Tetra Pak has developed a really mature project about supplier management and supply chain resiliency. So as the moderator told us, Maria has, for me, is a really trusted voice. She has been in more than in several positions regarding supplier management, risk management, sustainability for the last 15 years, and really relevant for this session is that she was the one leading the digital transformation of the supplier department, bringing the risk management at really the next level. I think risk is quite high nowadays on the CPO agenda. The last 2 years have been really turbulent for all supply chains. And actually, you will learn a lot today, I guess, from Maria about Tetra Pak, how they are able to face risks, in this case, supported by the Riskmethods platform. So we are allocating 10 minutes for questions at the end of the session, so feel free to input them through the Slido application. So we will do it quite interactive at the end, so we have 10 minutes planned for questions, so give us hell. We're happy about every question we get. And this being said, so Maria, tell us a little bit more. I think people can imagine that Tetra Pak has quite a complex supply chain, so maybe you can give us some insights. And also, what are the kind of risks you're facing daily?
Yeah, thanks, Jorge. Took my key cards out. Not that we have rehearsed the questions, of course, but you never know. Yeah, just to give you a bit of background on Tetra Pak, I think everyone is familiar with the company, but we're divided into 3 businesses. So basically, we have packaging solutions, which is what you see as a consumer, but we also have processing solutions and equipment, so doing the equipment and the machines to fill the cartons with content, and then we have services. In 2021, we had a net sales of above 11 billion euro. We are present in 160 or more than 160 countries globally. And we are about 25,000 or more than 25,000 employees. Of those, I think around 800 are colleagues of mine in procurement. So that's a bit of the background. We manage around, procurement team, 15,000 suppliers. That's active suppliers in the past 12 months. And I think, like you said, there are a lot of stress, a lot of risk that we have to consider in risk management, in supplier risk management, in supplier management procurement today. So, of course, we face all the challenges that everyone else with energy, legislation, ESG, but of course at the core of what we do and what we want to do is to secure supply and in the end also, of course, securing some savings for the organization.
Nice. I think really insightful. So if we focus in the supplier risk program, which would be for you the primary objectives you wanted or you want to achieve?
Yeah, I think, we've defined a transformation journey for procurement overall, and in risk management, we've tried to link what we do also to that journey, and both of those initiatives it's been very important for us to secure that connection to corporate strategy, also with the implementation of risk methods or overall the projects that we run. We see that if we're running them as more formal projects and we base them in our corporate strategy and linking them to corporate objectives, then it's more easy for us to get buy-in and from management and to get higher priority and budget, etc. So we've also done that with our supplier risk management program, and I think for us in Tetra Pak, we have 3. I have some colleagues here also in the front row, so they know what I'm talking about. We have overall 3 key leadership behaviors that we talk about. So we talk about being more capable, more productive, and more dynamic. And we are also then trying to link what we do to those three. And specifically when we talk about supplier risk management, then when we talk about being productive, it's about, if we look in the past, we have had the ambition to cover everything, to try to do everything. So all of those 15,000 suppliers, to try to manage all risks for all suppliers, and you have a lot of spreadsheets, and you get a bit lost in what you do. So when we talk about productive, of course, it's focusing those resources and making sure that we take more of a risk-based approach, is what we refer to. We link category risks to our categories. So just to let you know what we mean with that is that, for example, someone who works in managing suppliers, maybe services related to HR or something, they would probably need to spend their time and their resources on focusing on risks like data privacy, or maybe validating suppliers from an OHS perspective, or co-employment issues, so things that are linked to services, where someone working with equipment should focus more their efforts on maybe assessing sustainability issues, or of course, secure supply, business continuity is a key there, but also maybe for us it's a key to secure also materials and parts in food contact, that we have safe materials in our projects that are in food contact. So I think that key of doing a risk-based approach and linking the risks to our categories and not trying to do everything for all of them is a key for us. So that was productive. And then when we come to capable, and that's where risk methods come in, and technology, of course, we want to be more capable. We want to build capabilities. We want to make sure that we remain valuable for the organization in the future, so that we learn, that we explore additional capabilities. And then, of course, if you can take help from technology and AI to build that capability, that is, of course, giving you an upper hand on dealing with all of the things that come our way. And then the last one, dynamic, and I think this is also relating back to what I said initially, that we were trying to do everything for all risks, for all suppliers, and at all times. And we also had this quite heavy, going back 3-4 years, we had this heavy exercise of reporting all of the risks on up to corporate level, where we had once a year an exercise that involved maybe 100 people, with a lot of spreadsheets flying around the world and taking up most people's beginning of the summer, and quite stressful. And so I think what we were able to do there is to become, we want to shift that to be more dynamic, be more proactive, and be able to address risks as they appear, to decide on quicker time to reaction, to quicker time to mitigate, and not only do this as once a year. So if something happens, you can take it up, you can address it, you have all the facts ready at hand, and you can take decisions. There's also decision with information. You can also say, no, we're not going to make any, we're not going to do anything, but at least you have the awareness, and you have the option to say, no, we're willing to take this risk, we're aware of it, but we'll move on.
So as you were saying, I think the degree of complexity of your supply chain is quite high. I mean, 15,000 suppliers, 800 procurement specialists. So when you wanted to solve this problem, was artificial intelligence and technology key for you for this initiative?
I think it's a question that answers itself. I think we need to take help of technology. I listened to was it Alan in there who said that he wasn't sure about if we're more productive using technology, etc. But I think to a certain extent we need to use the solutions that are available, and for us it has been a gain of productivity to use a tool instead of having all those spreadsheets and even things stored in not only on local desktops but also in drawers in 160 countries around the world. I mean, there's no question there. So I think, of course, with AI and using technology, you are able to process a lot of data, and instead of having people relying on doing their own research, we have real-time data, real-time information coming available to us in alerts, etc., as it happens, and not something that individuals have to go out and find themselves. So I think also being able to channel that information to the correct people so that you try to take out the noise and have the correct alerts going to the correct people, I think that's a key, and that's something that technology has helped us with.
I think it makes completely sense, and actually I consider you really risk mature and risk aware. You have been doing this for a while. So if you would like to highlight your biggest milestones you're the most proud of, so which ones would you highlight for the audience as real milestones in your journey to resiliency?
Yeah, I think it's, definitely shorter time to react, and having this picture of the overview, to have all the alerts and everything coming out on one platform. I think that has helped the organization to be faster to react, to be faster to mitigate. That has also enabled us to be more cost efficient, to have increased visibility of our risks, of our suppliers. And that is also one of the key aims of the product that we, or our full risk management program, that we want to increase efficiency and effectiveness. And so I think those are things that we really showed, especially when we look at the project we ran when implementing risk methods, those were really keys that we wanted to increase efficiency. And I should say also, when we implemented the project, initially we had the thought that we have a lot of people that, in supplier management, is probably the same for many of you, that you have different tools, and you have the organization complaining that they have so many interfaces, they have a lot of things to go into. And so our initial ambition with actually bringing risk methods on board, but also other solutions, was that we were going to handle them in a central organization by just a few people. But when we went out in meetings and we started showing the solution, and especially some of the alerts that come out, you hear about natural hazards, a change of CEO somewhere, so it's increasing intelligence for the supplier management organization, then a lot of the colleagues said, but hey, I want that as well. So we had to actually shift really rapidly and say, okay, let's offer it. We're not going to tell everyone to use it. We're not going to say it's mandatory, but let's offer it to anyone. Then came the pandemic, then came, semiconductor crisis, then came the war, and then came energy crisis, and people are requesting me daily to, okay, hey, how do I get this? So it's been, normally I've worked in other implementations before. You have to nag and beg people to use things, and you have to come up with use cases to show them the usability, etc. But in this case, it's been quite a pleasant ride for me to implement. So yeah, one thing good with the current turbulent times that we're in. Let me see if there's something. Just on the implementation also, I think a key for us also in making it so available to everyone was that it's an intuitive platform, so it was easy to use for everyone. And I think that's also, if it would have been complex to go on there, but a lot of people use these alerts not only to react and mitigate, but also if you have a supplier review meeting, you can go in and you can scan, you can see, okay, this, they have changed their CEO, they are struggling financially with something, or, so you can get a high-level overview. You can bring intelligence with you into that meeting and discuss those topics on a higher level.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. I think it's going to be really insightful and interesting for the whole audience. So I consider you really creme de la creme already in risk management. So, you can feel flattered if you want. But actually, do you think it's over? Are you already done in the terms of technology, processes, the visibility you have? or do you have plans? What's your vision? What can you do to be even more risk-aware, more preventive? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think one of the keys, and I know that people have reached different maturity level. I've talked to other colleagues in other organizations, and we're not there, but we definitely want to be monitoring our tier suppliers better. And I think that's the key. I mean, that's the key for future to be on top of, not only relating to ESG, supply chain legislation, anything that comes your way like that, but also, I mean, now, for example, in the energy crisis, you have to know where your materials are coming from or who is affecting your supply chain. So that's one of the keys that we really need to move quickly into increasing our sub-tier visibility and monitoring of sub-tier suppliers. Then I mentioned legislations. I think a lot of you that have similar roles to me, that you may also be the person that have to talk to a lot of people that come your way and ask you to be the gatekeeper of a lot of different things. Happens a lot of times, you know, they ask you, oh, supplier management, but you have the contact with the supplier. Can you do, you know, we have to add this clause to our contracts, and you have to be the gatekeeper of data privacy, of OHS validations of contractors, and by the way, you know, a bit of sustainability and the Supply Chain Act here. And so I think all of those things we're trying to you know, put together and make use of and I think legislation there is also one thing that is popping up more and more, especially related to sustainability, ESG, and that's also going to be needing to be a focus of ours. Yeah.
I agree with you. If you allow me, I would like to highlight this multi-million-dollar problem. It's about sub-tier visibility. Like, I have a dual sourcing strategy, I think I'm covered, and then they both rely on one, there is a force majeure, and then my dual strategy was a complete mess. I'm hearing that every day. And actually, I don't know more than 20 companies that have their ducks in a row in terms of tier 2 visibility. We have some experts sitting in the room, actually, but it's super difficult. A lot of companies are focusing in reacting to a threat, getting the right alerts on time, but for me, this is already old school. If you are able to forecast what's happening in the sub-tiers, you would be able to be preventive, and then you won't have any risk to tackle, you don't need any mitigation. And actually, what is also really important is to educate your tier 1 suppliers to be risk aware, because if they are doing a good job, less catastrophes or adverse events will transpire to the customer level. And to do that, there are two approaches, I think, out there. One would be we could map out synthetically public information to try to do associations. Company A works with company B, but what is selling company A to company B, you don't know. There are big companies out there that have several product lines. And if company A is purchasing from company B, are they using their source, their purchasing production, the manufacturing site in Germany or in China? You don't know. So at the end, you need collaboration with your suppliers. You need to foster this transparency, educate your suppliers, make them more risk aware, and massage them a bit so that they are part of your initiative. And at some point, you will be able to forecast disruptions and educate your suppliers that are risk aware, are proactive, and can react faster to threats. We know it's a little bit painful. You need to put a lot of invest. The technology is not doing everything, but we believe it's the only way to real supply chain resiliency. And having said that, we are ready for those questions.
I think you can come closer if you want to.
I can.
We need to get the mic on for the Slido
Andrew,
questions.
Yeah. Hello. Okay.
He's a bit lazy and wants to sit in the first row instead of...
Instead of coming on stage? Well, hold on. Okay, I like
Come
it.
join us.
I like it. Hey, first, I had a question here. Are the suppliers themselves ready for this transparency and to be brought into the conversation, or do they also need to be convinced?
Maybe you want to take
that. It depends. So if we're talking about tier 1 monitoring, it's non-intrusive. That means in our case, we base our risk scoring on 3 pillars. One is data we capture in public sources. We monitor 500,000 public sources in more than 40 languages and using natural processing language. this artificial intelligence, we're able to capture these signals. So for those, or with the use of some database where we could enrich the profile, we don't need them in board. But when we want to go deeper in the sub-tiers, we need to make them part of this supply risk network, and then we need their buy-in. And some of them will be hesitant, because they could think, maybe you want to cut me as the middleman, you want to bypass me. So some of them will be afraid. But actually, if you incentivize them through technology, giving them access to your own supply risk network, they most probably will accept. And I think in 5 years, all supply chain laws will mandate to have transparency beyond the tier 1. And actually, at some point in the code of conduct, in their terms of conditions, companies will be mandated to deliver from who they are sourcing. So tier 1, no. Tier 2, yes.
Okay, good
Yeah,
question.
and I think adding to that, I mean, I think this is all about creating a relationship with your suppliers, and that's a key, for us, that those key suppliers, they're not, it's not your enemy, you're not, because we need to know, we need to have transparency. We cannot, with the energy crisis, who's going into the energy crisis with poor financials? We don't want to take them out of business. We need them to be there, but we need to be aware of their financial situation. We need to be aware of who they're relying on in the sub-tier. So it's gaining that trust. And of course, we're not talking about, I said again, we have 15,000 suppliers. This is probably, the suppliers we have in risk methods are probably around 10% of those suppliers. So those are the critical suppliers. And when we talk about the really critical, where we really need to know about sub-tier visibility, et cetera, it's probably 10% of those. So it's a lot less. But I think their key is the mutual understanding and the respect that you need to create with the supplier to co-invent or to also do things for the future.
Sure,
Yeah.
great. Let me talk about a different problem, too much noise. How do you guarantee relevant alerts? There's a lot of information out there.
There's a lot of information. We actually, I can give you some numbers. We have, like I said, I think we have 1,600 suppliers or so in the solution right now. It's adding up, but yeah, around 1,600.
But how do you get the right information out of this pool of info?
We get, on those 1,600 suppliers, we get 30 alerts a week. So, that's not a lot of noise. And I know people that get all of those alerts to look, but of course you have the setup where you can, depending on, you can subscribe to different suppliers, so you get part of those alerts. So for an individual supplier manager, they may not get any alerts, or they may get a couple in a week. And then, of course, there are other opportunities in the risk method solution to filter beyond that as well, and say, look, I'm not interested if the BNP goes up or down in Gambia. I'm interested in if there's a strike on my site or there's a fire on a supplier site. So you can decide what type of information you want to receive as well.
Okay.
That's one of the keys that we've liked also with the configurability.
Yeah, I would like also to touch on this. If you spam your users with nonsense, they won't use the tool. The user adoption will be really low, and they would lose trust in the system. So we are really proud of our noise cancellation. I would say it's one of our top 3 advantages. And we like to trigger only alerts to the person that is actually responsible for the category for the supplier in the risk area that this person is interested in. So they could be someone only getting sanction-related alerts. That could be the finance team only getting latent deterioration of the financial situation of the company. Sustainability only getting ESG alerts. So we are able to segment the information that is going to the person so that we channel only that matters.
Is this information going to the customer, or are you talking about information that you receive yourself?
That we would receive in supply.
How much of that do you share is another question. How much do you share and pass on to the customers?
Yeah, we don't really use it that way. Customers being final customers or internal customers?
I could imagine from your suppliers, for example, you get the notification, CEO change. Would you use this to engage in a conversation to a supplier and ask about continuity to get their trust
I can ask the second part of the question too. In order to provide end-to-end integrated supply chain, for example.
Yeah, I mean, we don't. I think we're using the alerts in two ways. We're using it, one, to act on things that, there's a fire somewhere, there's a cyber breach somewhere, then you need to act. Or at least make a decision, are you acting or not, and taking mitigation action. But I think then you can also use it to build intelligence, and that intelligence you can give it back. But I think it's more, I mean, I don't see a customer being interested in seeing exact situation, the CEO has changed here. I think it's more bringing that as intelligence into a discussion and say, look, we have this system, we're monitoring these aspects, and more, I think more for them to rest assured that we have a solution and that we have a thought with what we're doing, more so than sharing individual alerts. We're not really using it that way. For internal customers, for the business, we are sometimes using parts of it into reports to be able to show them the status of suppliers delivering into one business, for example, in the company.
And actually, you mentioned the word end-to-end, and for us, there is only one concept that is end-to-end. We need to be able to map manufacturing plants to special hotspot choke points, like we have seen what's happening to Suez already twice in the last years. And there would be a nonsense if you have what we call a supplier green, that means low risk, but you're delivering through Shanghai and there is a port congestion. And if you get the alert in this end-to-end flow, you would be able to redirect.
Maybe I have time for two quick questions here. I'm going to combine two here. And so if this has been asked already, I'm sorry, I'm not as informed in this. How many Tier 1 suppliers are you monitoring with risk method, and how do you guarantee that the Tier 1 suppliers will disclose info about their own suppliers?
Yeah, I can ask the first part, and you can say the second part. I mean, if your mic's still working. Yeah, I think I said that. I mean, we're covering about 10% of our active suppliers, or around 1,600 suppliers or so, focusing, of course, on. I mean, we have different criteria when we want to monitor suppliers. So single sign-on, heavy, dependency, technical dependency, potential high impact on our business, etc. So we have criteria built up that when we want to monitor supplier and risk methods and pass them there, we don't want to monitor the flower shop or the everyday suppliers. Yeah.
All right, and to answering the second question, I mean, it's impossible to predict that all of them will say yes, but at least what we are proposing from risk methods is incentivize them through technology, so that they have their Tier 1 suppliers, they have a small license and they get some alerts, so that we educate them. And normally if you just ask for the information, they could be hesitant. But if you make them part of our resiliency program, the probabilities are a lot higher.
Okay. Final question for the creme de la creme of risk mitigation here. I give you 6 words to answer this question. What are the main risks you expect in the future of having a big impact on Tetra Pak itself, the organization? What's the #1 risk?
Crystal ball. There you go.
Crystal ball, yes. 6 words.
I mean, right now we're working on the energy. So energy, supply chain legislation, ESG. Yeah, I don't know how many words that was.
All of them, basically. Okay, very good. Hey, thank you very much. A fantastic discussion. A round of applause, please.
Thanks.